narcissistic relationships will bring up old wounds from your childhood and then expand even deeper on them. So if you find yourself in this type of relationship, it's meant for you to be aware of what's going on so that you can grow out of that, so you can find your identity, give that awareness to yourself, to develop yourself, to find what you love, find what you hate, find your passions. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am so thankful y'all are here. I pray you can find home here, and if so, welcome. So today I do have my notes, as y'all can see. Today I want to talk about the fight for your awareness. I want y'all to try to focus on the energy of narcissism, because when you can understand the energy of it, it helps you also understand the boundaries that you have to put up to protect yourself from narcissistic people or bad toxic situations in general. So if we're raised by people who are narcissistic or have narcissistic traits themselves, it's very likely that we've taken on some of those things also. Keep in mind things that may stick out to you that you may have done in your life, or energies that you may have given out, because it's all learned. Narcissism is the fight for your awareness. It's the reason why a lot of people feel like they've lost their identity, or they never had a strong, grounded identity in self, because in order for narcissism to really thrive, it has to have all the attention. It has to be able to take up as much priority in everybody else's life that it's surrounded by in order to thrive. So this is why a lot of times narcissistic people, or the energy of narcissism, really works when it comes to children who don't understand, who haven't yet grown into an identity. A lot of narcissistic people don't really show their full self until maybe they have somebody that's really deeply in love with them or committed to them in any type of way, where that person is more vulnerable. So the energy of narcissism really preys upon people who are vulnerable, who are naive, who aren't informed, who don't have an identity of their own, because that way they can control and manipulate more. They know you don't know how to put up boundaries. They know you don't have the confidence or the assertiveness to tell somebody this doesn't feel good, or to question their actions. So when we relate and connect in a healthy way, there's typically a sense of banter when it comes to how do you feel? How do I feel? What did I expect? What did you expect? What are you needing? What am I needing? There's this healthy banter of both parties being important, of both people having space to express and to also be validated and related to. With the energy of narcissism, there is no healthy banter. Even if you get a second to explain yourself and how you feel, they're not really calculating, okay, this is where I misunderstood her or him, or oh, okay, I didn't realize this about her or him. They're solely focused on what your emotions, what your expression means to them, which is typically which is typically a big threat to their ego. It's a big threat to the lies and the manipulation they may have had to live off of up until that point to even be in a relationship with you. Because understand that narcissists have had to thrive off of not being their authentic self, not presenting true emotions for so long, that they go into every situation very on edge, very anxious, always constantly looking out for who could be threatening their false sense of self, constantly ignoring anything or anyone that could possibly threaten the lies that they've had to build in order to feel a sense of safety or feel a sense of groundedness. So when it comes to this healthy banter, there is none of that. And they may listen to you, but they're listening to you with the ears of, how is this person about to hold me accountable so I can get out of it? In what ways is this person making me feel bad or insecure or inferior in this moment, so that I can deflect, so that I can explain away my side or what I did so that I can avoid apologizing or accountability at all costs, because narcissists never want to feel inferior. And sadly, if they're in a position where they have to own up to something or take accountability, they feel inferior. And we all know when you have to apologize, when you make a mistake, when you hurt somebody's feelings, it doesn't feel good. You want to apologize. You want to be better to them. You want to show up more for them in that area. So this is something that narcissists lack, because it takes a certain knowing of who you are. It takes a certain identity of who you are to say, oh shoot, I made a mistake and this is how I went wrong, or to listen to somebody tell you where you went wrong and then have the courage and just the backbone to say, I apologize for that. That was wrong. I should have did this, I should have did that. So narcissists never really develop that strong sense of who they are in order to present you with who they truly are. So again, narcissists are very fragile in that they don't really have a true self to present. They don't have a true self that can take accountability and do the work to maintain certain relationships, because it is going to take them to feel inferior. It is going to take for them to have their ego bruised by not being all perfect, or being able to be, or being able to be void of mistakes. They never want to feel like the bad person. They never want to feel like they're the ones in the wrong. They're constantly avoiding it. Ooh, it's so pretty. Anytime you're being yourself, you're being authentic, you're being true to you, whatever that means in that moment. If you're pursuing a hobby that you really love, if you're expressing your genuine emotions, this is a threat to a narcissist who doesn't have a firm sense of authenticity, who doesn't have a firm sense of who they are. So when you're being yourself, when you're being authentic, this can really be a threat, because you're mirroring back to them a certain power, a certain energy that they either can't tap into, or that they haven't given themselves enough space, enough time, and the humility to settle down into. There's also the possibility of them being rejected for their false self from your true self. If you're being very authentic, if you're listening to your intuition, if you're being mindful of how you truly feel and how you're being treated, this will create a situation where they may have to be accountable. They may have to put in some extra work, or you may see through them. So your authenticity, your true genuine emotions will be belittled, they'll be downplayed, they'll deflect from any accountability just to remain in the power seat. And narcissism is all about power and control. How can I keep my power over this person? How can I never lose to this person? Everything is a win and lose situation with narcissists, which is why they can't really empathize. They can't really submit to your emotions that you're feeling, because energetically that does put them in a more apologetic or a more inferior energy. But as we know, being in that seat of apologizing or inferiority, it doesn't make you any less. It just makes you aware that that person deserves your understanding, or that person deserves you taking that accountability. But narcissists don't want any parts of feeling inferior. They don't want any parts of feeling like they maybe might lose in the situation. They want to avoid that at all costs. Anytime you're very vocal, anytime you're very bold and assertive in what you feel, especially if the narcissist has done something wrong to you, this will again be an ego bruise. You're basically telling them that I see you and you're doing something that's harming me, which means you're not doing everything right. The way you're operating isn't necessarily healthy or beneficial for me. So I'm asking you to change. I'm asking you to be more aware. But again, because the energy of narcissism thrives off of the false self, off of exerting control over others, you trying to assert yourself over them. It's not even over them, but it's just you trying to get them to show a little humility or vulnerability. They feel like they're lacking. They feel like they're less than. And also, if you have a firm grip on what's going on and you're asserting yourself and you have a very authentic identity, there's a possibility that they can be rejected. There's a possibility that you could leave them, which is literally death to a narcissist. And if you've been watching any videos or doing any research, you know that leaving a narcissist is not only an ego bruise, but it also threatens their very sense of being alive, of being important, of being someone. So that's why typically if a relationship is getting rocky, if they feel like you're about to leave them, this is when they'll discard. This is when they'll start treating you really bad or pushing you away or trying to make you leave them, because then they feel like it was in their control. They feel like, I didn't get left. I made you leave me. You weren't enough for me. You couldn't be the person I needed you to be, or you couldn't do this or be that. So it was in my control to push you away. But a lot of narcissists also don't really want to look like the bad guy on the surface. So they'll do these things very covertly, very sneakily. It's very rare that they'll approach you and just say, hey, this isn't working out. A lot of times they'll push you to your edge. They'll overwhelm you. They will constantly deflect, constantly ignore your feelings. And for a lot of people who don't know what's going on, who don't understand narcissism, they're literally pushed to their edge. They're pushed to their breaking point in a way where they may rage. They may go off on that person. They may end up cheating, which I'm not saying any of those things are right. But if you're not aware of what's going on and this person that you love and trust is constantly pushing back, constantly telling you that everything is your fault, I didn't do anything wrong, a lot of, I don't want to say victims, but a lot of targets are pushed to their edge and they end up doing things that give the narcissist validation to break up with that person. Oh, she's crazy. Oh, he's crazy. He cheated on me. When the whole relationship, that person was actively triggering them, actively showing that they didn't give a care about what that person was feeling. And so a lot of narcissists will wait until you hit your breaking point, until you've had enough to say, look at her, look at him. This is why I can't be with this person. This is why this person doesn't deserve me. And just to give some comparison, breakups are normal. Breakups will happen. I've broken up with people, okay? But when we break up with others, it's typically because we see that the relationship won't fit. We see that there may be things that we need to tend to, and a relationship isn't necessarily the best thing to prioritize. So we approach people with that genuine heart and say, hey, right now isn't the time, or, you know, this relationship isn't working out, or I'm gonna go back to my own space. This is what's going on. We typically want to at least give an update to people when we're separating our energy, or even if it's not a breakup, if we just need space, we can typically say, hey, this is what's going on with me, you know? But again, with narcissists, they don't want to take any accountability. They don't want to be aware of themselves. So they just constantly push people, trigger people, say what they have to say, fake emotions, deflect, you know, gaslight, whatever they have to do to stay in control, to not take accountability. I think that's such a traumatizing thing that happens in narcissistic relationships, is that there's so much confusion. You no longer feel like yourself. You lose your sense of identity. I can say, even for myself, it completely wiped my sense of self away. I mean, I developed social anxiety. I've always had performance anxiety, but I never had social anxiety to a point where I couldn't even stand in the grocery store line without feeling terrified, without feeling this sense of panic. And it affected me at work. I stopped doing the things that I loved. I lost who I was. I didn't really know who I was anymore. And that's the thing. A lot of times narcissistic relationships will bring up old wounds from your childhood, and then expand even deeper on them. So if you find yourself in this type of relationship, it's meant for you to be aware of what's going on so that you can grow out of that, so you can find your identity, give that awareness to yourself, to develop yourself, to find what you love, find what you hate, find your passions. Because narcissists are betting on you not giving your awareness to yourself. They're betting on you not caring for yourself more than you care about them in that relationship. They're betting on you not doing the research and not truly believing in what you're noticing, believing in what you're observing. I think a lot of times we can give so much empathy and we can give so much compassion and understanding to people that we lose sight of the fact that we're no longer even prioritizing ourselves. We're no longer empathizing with ourselves and expressing how we genuinely feel because we're so focused on keeping this narcissistic person happy or in our lives or whatever it is. So I want to leave y'all with this. Narcissists are constantly fighting for your awareness. So this is why they're constantly comparing you to others. There's a lot of belittling, which is typically covert. They'll constantly judge you or even rage at you for your natural feelings or for your natural expression. So they'll constantly make you feel like you're doing something wrong, you're bad, you're wrong, you're this, you're that. They constantly try to keep your awareness on what you're doing wrong, how you can serve them better, how you're an annoyance or a burden to them in their lives. It's constantly about them. It's constantly about what they need, never what you need. It's whenever the partner is sick or going through something really tough, this is when the narcissist may create a situation or a problem that they're going through. They may exaggerate things that they're feeling or do anything to take the attention and the energy off of you. Whenever they feel like they can't live in this world that's all about them and their needs, they typically have no use for you. They typically want you far away as possible because you're no longer validating this delusion that they're the only person that matters. They're the only person with feelings and emotions. And they can't have that. They have to have all the energy on them. It always has to be about them. If you're authentic, it's a personal attack on them. If you have needs or wants, it's a personal attack on their superiority. If you show that you're aware of how they're making a mistake or where they're going wrong, you're going to be the bad person because they want to live in a certain delusion that keeps them and their very fragile ego safe. Again, remember, no matter how narcissists may come off, they may give off an energy that they're really in control, they really have the power, they're really the man, they're really the woman. No matter how they come off, understand that there's a very fragile sense of self behind that show, behind what they're presenting. And sadly, a lot of people don't realize this until they're in a relationship with that person, until they're going through something detrimental and they realize that the person that they thought was so in control or so confident or, dominant and this and that is actually a weak little girl or a weak little boy. It's really up to you to maintain your sense of self. It's up to you to prioritize yourself. If somebody is invalidating you and telling you that what you feel isn't important and that what they feel is more important or it's more real, then that person is not healthy. You need to get away from them. They're probably a narcissist, or if they're not a narcissist, they have narcissistic tendencies that they're not willing to let go of. Again, we can all have narcissistic traits because of maybe how we were raised or society. But if you're never willing to hear how you're hurting people, if you're never willing to hear how your mindset or your behavior is impacting people, because you're still going around on a high horse that you can do no wrong, that you are all perfect. I think we can all have times where we're not being as considerate as we maybe should be. We all have times where we may invalidate somebody else's feelings in the moment, especially if we're triggered, if we've gone through trauma and we aren't completely relaxed in all of our emotions. We can trigger people, we can deflect, we can gaslight. So you want to make sure that as you're studying about narcissism, as you're becoming more aware of what you've been through, that you're also checking yourself, that you're also making sure that you're learning healthy behaviors that can benefit you in your future relationships, because none of us are perfect. None of us have the cheat codes or the exact instructions on how to live life. None of us do. But I think it's a beautiful thing. It's a beneficial thing to not only other people, but also to you, to have humility, to have the heart to say, I could have handled that better. I could have done that better. And to actually work on yourself, to actually break down the beliefs that are causing you to act in the ways that you act. This is a pretty long video, but if you made it to the end, I am so thankful, y'all. I've really been in kind of a limbo of what to post, of what to say on YouTube, and I'm kind of finding my footing. So if these videos help, please support the channel. I appreciate you, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.